Alrighty, hey, food explorers. Today is an amazing day. I have with me Celeste of Dota Coffee. And I'm a coffee lover. She's obviously a coffee lover.
Yeah, obviously.
We're going to talk all about coffee, but we're going to talk about special coffee. And the coffee we're talking about today is Costa Rican coffee. So you are from Costa Rica.
Yes.
Where in Costa Rica you're from?
It's called Dota. That's the county. And it's an hour and a half driving south from the capital. San Jose is the capital. That's the province too. So it's in Dota. Yeah, that's the region, the coffee region too. And it's in the mountains part of Costa Rica.
Nice. And I was reading all about your coffee. I read through your entire website. I read all your blogs.
Oh my God.
I read everything. And your coffee is grown at high altitude.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so with being at high altitude, does that make the coffee change the flavor profile?
It does. That's like some of the most important factors in coffee quality. It's altitude, because you can play around with process, with varieties and everything, but you can't actually play around with altitude, right? Like you plant it and that's it. So as we go up in altitude, coffee tends to develop more complexity. That's what we say.
Okay.
So the bean takes longer to grow in the plant, and that sort of leads to a more complex flavor. So that increases quality in general. So it's in the coffee world, we say that if coffee is grown at a high altitude, the quality will be better.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
So now we have to discuss, of course, you're from Costa Rica. You're living in Edmonton, and we have winter for 6 months of the year. So it is April 19th today, and it just snowed again the other day.
Yeah.
Don't plant your garden before May long weekend. I have said this before. But what brought you to Canada?
Yeah, I know, it's weird, and Canada is huge. Why Edmonton?
Okay, we're gonna narrow it down. Why Edmonton?
Because we have a business partner that he is from Edmonton, Vince. He's part of the company too. And Vince decided to buy a coffee farm in Costa Rica. He basically Googled the best coffee plantations in America, like in Central America.
And you came up.
And Costa Rica showed up.
Okay.
And then the coffee region where I'm from showed up.
Okay.
And then he made some calls to some realtors over there. And all of a sudden he was, standing with my brother. And we had like a spare piece of land that it was doing not nothing, but it was just over there, not planted.
Okay.
So we sold it to him.
Mm-hmm.
This was 3 years ago. So I study agriculture science. That's my degree. I was inside the coffee farm, we have a lodge.
Okay.
So I was working at the lodge at that time. This was 2021.
Okay.
It was right after COVID, so it was a very interesting time for us.
Topsy-turvy.
Yes. Oh my God. And so Vince came, and he needed someone to start planting the coffee and everything. He's an accountant.
Okay.
So he didn't actually know anything about coffee production or coffee processing or coffee market
So, but your farm had other things on it already.
Yes. So we produce coffee, and we also produce avocados.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, we have coffee needs shade. So we sort of have planted mixed coffee and avocado all together. And inside the farm, we also have my dad, he has a very strong entrepreneurship spirit in general. Yeah. So it's a family business, right? I have two brothers, older brothers. So one of my brothers, he runs the lodge, and the other one helps running the farm. And I was sort of in between, trying to help everybody. So then Vince came along, and I started working for him because he needed someone to start planting everything, right? And for him, this project it's a life project, right? To build a company, to provide jobs. And the main idea, it was to produce the coffee in Costa Rica and bring it here to Canada.
And you're producing everything in Costa Rica, right? So you're not you're doing all the roasting and everything there too?
No, the roasting is here.
Roasting is here. Okay.
Yeah, because that's a key thing on quality. Like we need to keep it fresh.
Okay.
So roasting has to happen here.
Okay.
We explore the possibility to roast it in Costa Rica and bring it here, but then shipment has to be very quick, and that's not a easy thing to solve, basically. No. So yeah, so we do everything.
So with a coffee tree, different species.
Yes.
How long?
Different varieties.
Different varieties. Okay. Yes. So how long from when you plant that coffee tree to maturity to actually pick?
It depends coffee? It depends on the altitude, it depends on the region, and it depends on the variety that you're planting.
Oh, okay.
So there is a lot of factors, and that's how agriculture works in general. It's very regional. So for example, if you're growing coffee at a lower altitude, weather tends to be warmer.
Yes.
So it will speed the growing rate.
Okay.
And it will speed the production to like the harvest and everything. Okay. In our case, that it's cold because as long as we go up, it tends to like temperatures drops. For us, it takes around 4 years since we planted to have the first harvest.
Wow. So that's an investment in time then.
Yes. Agriculture is an investment on time.
So how long will that coffee tree then produce for? Is it like 5-10 years?
No, that this is a beauty about coffee, that as long as it depends also in the management.
Okay.
Like all the agronomy, like the agriculture management that you provide to the plant. But you can have coffee plants producing for 40 years if you want. Yeah. Okay. It's a perennial crop. That's how we call it.
So do you harvest it more than once a year?
It depends on the weather. Okay. But it's usually in Costa Rica, there is an even harvest season. So it's usually just one harvest season. Okay. Now that the weather is sort of changing and the rain patterns are changing, I think next year we're going to have sort of 2 separate harvest seasons. That's going to be different.
It's so interesting too because coffee is a commodity.
It is.
I work in chocolate, as y'all know.
It's a commodity.
It's a commodity, and our pricing has gone up 264% in 2 years. So whereas our cocoa was $2,500 a ton, it's now almost $11,000 a ton.
Is it because of weather?
Weather, yeah. Drought, harvests not coming to fruition, and futures. The people that play in futures, please stop. You're killing me. But for coffee, do you see like those big swings? Because like as I was doing my research, Brazil produces the most amount of coffee, and they're quite close to you. But are you seeing, because you're a smaller company and a smaller producing region, bigger impacts, or?
No, we do. I think it was 2 years ago, sort of, that Brazil had this frozen drought. I think it's how it's called.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically like this cold wind came into Brazil and it freeze all the coffee plants.
Okay.
So that dropped production. Prices went up.
So lack of created.
Exactly. The lack. So whatever happens in Brazil or Vietnam, if it affects their production, they will definitely it will be reflected on the price.
So is Vietnam
the second?
That was the second. Yeah. See, look at all the stuff on
Brazil and Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah, Costa Rica produces 1%, I think.
Oh wow.
So we never compete on volume. We're an eighth of Alberta size, something like that. Yeah, we're such a small piece of land.
Yeah. Now I've got to have coffee from Dota Coffee. I've had both varieties as well, and I am not somebody. I'm the fancy. You guys know this. I'm the fancy latte person. My viewers know this. I don't just drink straight coffee. But your coffee, is it the geisha blend that's very creamy?
Yeah. Exactly, it's creamy. That's the profile, the tasting profile.
Yeah, it's so good, and it's like as you're tasting it, you feel that nice mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's like a velvety, mouthfeel.
Yeah, and so that's a variety of what type of coffee?
Okay, so in coffee, because you mentioned species, there's two. Inside the genus, there's a lot of different kinds of coffee, but commercially producing species, we have two: Arabica,
okay,
and Canéfora,
okay,
or Robusta. That's like the common name.
okay.
So I think Vietnam produces mostly, in Brazil too, that it's high in volume. They produce Canéfora, Robusta. So I don't know if you've seen in the bags, sometimes they show this is 100% Arabica coffee.
Yes.
So they show that because it means Arabica, it has a higher quality in general.
Okay.
So that's species, right?
Okay.
So they're two different coffee species. Costa Rica, since we don't produce volume, like we can't compete with volume, the government created this law. This was like 40 years ago, that we can't plant the Canéfora species in our land.
Okay.
So we only produce Arabica coffee.
Okay.
And inside the Arabica coffee, there's a lot of different varieties.
Okay.
So we produce, in our case, we produce Catuaita. That's one of the most common
I've had
varieties.
delicious.
In Costa Rica, and Geisha, it's a very famous coffee variety in general in the coffee world because it has won a lot of different prizes. It was discovered, this profile, in Panama. So it's super expensive coffee. And it's very famous because it has this floral profile, which it's very appealing for a lot of people from Asia, and they're willing to pay a lot of money for it.
So with that one, like compared to Catuí, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. It's a Portuguese word, actually, so it's fine. It's weird.
Bom dia, obrigado. There's my words, I know. I used to know where the bathroom is, too. I've been to Portugal. Portugal's beautiful.
Yeah.
So with the geisha, is it produces less amount of coffee? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing with varieties, right? Like, there's some varieties that are accustomed to higher altitudes.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some varieties that are resistant to diseases, for example.
Mm-hmm.
In geisha, it's just a variety. It's a really tall plant compared to Catuai, for example.
Okay.
It's very tall, and like the branches are very separate from each other.
Oh, okay.
It's not a very appealing plant in general, and yes, it produces less.
Okay.
So the yield, it's always less than other varieties, but then the flavor is better, so you can sell it for a better price.
Yeah. Now, I saw on your website as well that you hand harvest everything.
Yes, it's handpicked.
Yeah. So that cherry, when you take it off of the tree, like what does that taste like? Or would you eat that? Yeah,
you can actually eat the pulp inside.
Okay.
It has I don't know if you tried the cacao pulp.
I have. Yeah.
So it's sort of the same. Like there's the mucilage, it's called, that it's the part of the seed of the fruit.
Yeah.
Right, that has all the sugars. And you can chew it. It has this particular, it's not a coffee flavor, because coffee, when it's roasted and when we have it like brew, it's different from this because this is just the fruit.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't know, it's like a kind of a jam thing.
Okay, so it's very fruity.
It's like fruity, it has a particular taste as the coffee plant. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah,
because I've had the cocoa, like the pulp, the juice.
Yeah.
And that for me is very like lychee, strawberry, raspberry.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's
yeah.
exactly something like that. Yeah.
The cocoa juice though is way too sweet. Honestly, I drank like a little bit and I was like, well, I've got diabetes now.
Yeah, it has a lot of sugars.
A lot of sugars.
Yeah.
So I love because coffee and cacao are like,
they're sort of the same.
They're very similar. So, to go through the process, so you harvest it, you then ferment it?
Yes, there is a fermentation, or there is a process, right? Because you could, now there are a lot of people experimenting. So there are some that they put it inside. So yeah, you can do different kinds of fermentation process. There is one that you can take the hand-pick the ripe cherry, and you could put that into a bucket without oxygen.
Oh.
So then you create a whole process, right? And then it's sort of fermented without oxygen.
So it's like an anaerobic fermentation.
Exactly.
Oh, crazy.
That's we are not exploring that yet, but just to point out the fact that it can be very wild.
Yeah.
Or what we do, and it's also a fermentation process, but with oxygen in this case.
Okay.
Is that we leave the mucilage, so it stays, it dries, because you need to dry the coffee before being roasted.
Yes.
And you basically dry the coffee because you need to lower humidity.
Okay.
And that's how you storage the coffee, and then it's ready to be shipped.
Okay.
And to travel, whatever it has to go, right?
Okay.
And that's how you preserve it, like in the shelf life of green coffee.
You're leaving that mucilage on when you transport?
No.
Just before you transport, you take it off.
We're leaving the mucilage in the drying part.
Oh.
Because we pick it. You can play with the process. You can leave the whole peel.
Okay.
And you can dry it like that. That would be a natural process.
Right.
You can remove the peel and leave the mucilage. That would be a honey process. That's the one we do.
Okay.
Or you'll need another machine to remove the whole mucilage and just leave the seed.
Okay.
And then you dry it like that. So everything has to be dried.
And when I was reading on the website, your website's awesome. I'm gonna put links to everything. But
there's a lot of information.
It's a lot of info. That's why I have 44 pages of notes. But with the honey process, that's the one that uses less water to process?
It uses less water. So compared to washed coffee, you need water to remove all the mucilage. And it's actually pretty tough, because then that water has a lot of sugars. So it's not polluted water, but you can't just like dispose the water into any, because it has already this amount of sugar, so it could ferment. So you need to figure out what to do with that water. We have a very strong regulation on that.
Right.
So we don't do wash coffees, because then it would add another layer of complexity. Yeah. In general in the process, right?
Yeah. And then your coffee is shade grown.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Oh my God, I'm writing right now about shade grown coffee.
Okay.
And our coffee is shade grown. In general, in Costa Rica, I think most producers, we still keep coffee grown under shade. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that, since there's a lot of economic pressure, right? So people are trying to find ways to produce more and more coffee, and the more logic way it's to increase production, right? So we can have more yield, so more money. So people are starting to take out the shade, hoping that will increase their yield. It does.
But doesn't that introduce pests?
And this is the thing. Then you have to rely into it increases yield, but it also increases production costs.
Right.
Because then you will have to add. You sort of have to balance that out with inputs. So either more fertilizer, more pesticides, more in general, more care, more labor.
Yeah.
So I was reading through that, because this is actually pretty funny. I was trying to find why not to plant shade grown coffee.
Okay.
Why not? There has to be something.
Yeah.
And it's just benefits of planting shade grown coffee. And the only thing is that, yes, it could it decreases a little bit the yield.
Okay.
Because coffee it's not fully exposed, and since you're planting other plants, they're all competing for nutrients in the soil, right? Yeah. And water in general. So there is a competition going on. Whether if you remove everything, it's just coffee. So coffee, I mean, anything you put inside the soil, it will just go to the coffee, right? Mm-hmm. But then, since the plant is exposed to sun, it's quite harsh, or not harsh, but it's a variety. I mean, in general, coffee coming from Ethiopia, in its native habitat, it grew under the forest, the understory. I think it's called. That's the biology word. Yeah. So it's accustomed to grow under some kind of shade.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically it. So yes, we grow, like I said, we grow avocados too, because at some point my dad realized that he had to diversify income.
Right.
And so he decided to plant avocado. Now we're actually going to remove avocado because avocado and coffee, they're very they demand a lot of nutrients. They're like two main crops put together.
Yeah.
So
you have, it says like you have some banana, some legumes.
Yeah, so traditional, we call it cercos in Spanish, and it's just that because the coffee farmer, they don't only produce coffee, they're also farmers in general.
Yeah.
So they'll produce all of other stuff. So bananas, you can find beans, you can find maize.
Yeah.
Some like squash, traditional squash. You can find fruits like guava trees.
Nice.
We have something that is called tomato trees. Different kinds of, it depends on the region, but yes, then you can add different kinds to your,
so then
to
do
your
those
system.
Like the stuff that's not coffee, like where do you sell that? Is that,
but this is the issue, and this is the complexity of having a shade grown coffee, that you have to find different markets for every different kind of thing. And this is where it's sort of it becomes efficient to just have one crop, right? Because then it's easy to just sell one thing and you focus on that. And this is one of the challenges that we have in agriculture in general, because if we're seeking sustainability, we definitely need, or even if we're seeking organic production to rely only on organic sources, we need to have high biodiverse system, like production system. It's funny because when people talk about organic agriculture, but it's a monoculture, it's like, yes, the only thing that you're doing it's replacing inputs. Yeah. But you killed all the biodiversity, right?
Mm-hmm. And you see these farms and stuff where, they're trying to do biodynamic because like they've wrecked their soil. Yeah. And now they're like, okay, well, what do we bring in? Okay, well, we bring in the chickens so that we've got, chicken manure, and they're kind of have to start from scratch almost, because they either had that monoculture or they're trying to go from a system of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, fungicides to natural. And I always find it interesting because there's this kind of big ag. So big agriculture has to have, you got to put the herbicides in the fires, and you can manage it better if you have biodiversity. Yes. And you can manage it better if your soil is good.
Oh my God. I mean, at the end, actually in organic agriculture, the approach is not to the plant, it's to the soil. It's how do we increase soil health somehow. And from that point, then the plant will be the one like receiving everything, right? Yeah. Because you could put all the fertilizer that you want, but if you have a bad soil, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So that's one of the things, and this is a huge topic. Oh my God. Oh yeah.
And I read a lot of like the nonfiction books that I typically read. So cookbooks right here. But typically, if I'm reading a nonfiction book, it's about food. And, like I'll read these books. I heard this book called Tomato Land, and it was all about tomatoes and how tomatoes grown in Florida, which is a terrible place to grow tomatoes. Tomatoes do not do well in Florida, but they're constantly just doing everything to get these tomatoes to grow. I won't swear. But they're not growing them for flavor. They're not growing them for taste. They're growing for how well do they bounce if they hop out of the vehicle. And so people are like, but I don't want my tomatoes to taste woody, and we've moved away from strawberries are only in the spring, rhubarb is only in that now we can have this all year round. Watermelons in December in Alberta, sure. And so I like that, with your farm, you are working on the biodiversity and different species, but then of course it's the added, where do they go?
Yes, exactly.
Who's buying them? Who are we selling them to? Like, that's the challenge.
And this is the challenge in general, to present alternative production systems. Yes. In general, that Okay, yes, we're presenting biodiverse production system, but how are we going to be able to sell that? And it's also it's I don't want to say that it's to blame the consumer, because they're used to waiting everything, or like you're used to go to the supermarket and find everything.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean there's no watermelons in December?
Exactly.
So okay, December.
Okay, how do we approach this? Through education to the consumer, to not expect everything, because and then we're getting into like, if we take, like, coffee shouldn't be growing in America, for example, in this part of the continent, then it should be grown just in Ethiopia, because that's then the native habitat. So where do we draw the line? You know, I don't know.
I don't know. And the funny thing is when I started researching all about coffee, and I was like, okay, Brazil grows the most amount of coffee. Yeah. My brain was like, coffee is from Ethiopia. What is happening here? And then you're like, and Vietnam, and I'm like, what? And then we just were discussing this off camera. Finland drinks the most amount of coffee.
Exactly.
What is up with the Finnish people? Finnish people out there, explain this to us.
It's too dark.
It's too dark. They got 6 months of darkness.
They need a lot of coffee to make it go, to make it kushling. Yeah. Right.
And but you were in Norway.
Yes, so I was in Norway, because this is the thing. I don't know. Yeah. This is where it gets funny, because yes, we're producing coffee, but it's a different kind of coffee. What we produce, it's not the same as the commercial one.
Right.
So coffee now, the coffee industry, it's getting similar as the wine industry in general. So it's specializing into terroir. It's called. I don't know. I said that word.
Terroir.
Yeah, terroir in French, whatever. Yeah. So coffee from different farms, they have different flavors, comes from different soils, different weather, different outcome.
Yeah.
So it's sort of the same, starting to becoming the same. And this movement sort of started, they say it started in the Nordics, in the Norway, Finland, Sweden, because they were tired of having this dark, bitter espresso from Italy. Thanks for the Italians, right?
Italians.
So they were sort of tired of this bitter drink, and they start doing lighter roast. Roast, because this is a dark roast profile, right? Mm-hmm. So like this is history, right? Nobody's actually sure where it comes from, but they started doing this more medium light roast and trying to get, okay, how do we find better quality in coffee? Right. How do we go and buy coffee directly from this region that we know there is quality? Because it's treated as a commodity. It's just coffee, whatever it comes from. It's just coffee in the C price and whatever, right?
And a regular consumer couldn't contact a place like Dota Coffee and be like, can I buy a kilo? Like, that was never a thing. But now,
no,
you can be in different markets and people can actually purchase that. So, being in Edmonton now, can I tell them that you're opening something?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so she's opening up a little coffee bar, which is going to be amazing, at our favorite place to eat. As you know, friends, I eat at Culina twice a week. My viewers know this. But that's going to be an opportunity to, really expand people's knowledge of your coffee.
And this is the thing about specialty coffee in general. It's still something educational. Like, because in this is the thing that it's different from wine industry, because not everybody drinks wine every day at every time, right?
Right.
You drink coffee every day at every time, or a lot of people does. And it's like, okay, there is a lot of commercial coffee, and now we have the specialty coffee, right? That it's for a more knowledgeable customer. That is seeking this specific profile, or that is also seeking some sort of connection to the to the farmer, or right, there is a moral connection going on too.
Yes.
So it's different. We'll see. It's a specialty coffee. That's the specialty coffee industry they want to look into more.
We'll have links, don't you worry. And you bring up such a good point. People I'm noticing working in the food industry that people want that connection. They want to know who made it? Did you make it? You made it. Oh, where did it come from? How was it grown? People are asking these questions now, whereas in the past it would be like, oh, it's the stuff off the shelf and off I go. What do I care? Right. And, even like people will say, with our chocolate, they'll be like, oh, is it organic? I'm like, no, it's sustainable.
It's different.
It's different. But people will be like, oh, but organic certification means, and it's like, no. Sustainable means it's going to be there for years to come. Organic doesn't necessarily mean that.
No.
And I always say, like, for me, if you spray, you should pay, not the other way around. But, so now you're going to have this little coffee bar and you're going to get people chatting and having some coffee with you. And then, so what are the plans for like Canada expansion? Are you like to diversify across Canada to have people be able to buy your coffee online, or like what's the sort of plan?
Yeah, so our plan since the beginning, we want to get more money of what we get back home.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's our main goal, because as producers, we are used to just delivering the raw product and nothing, and not doing anything else.
Okay. Oh, so now you're actually
what we were trying to
the
do
whole
to
supply
get,
chain.
To get the whole supply chain so we can increase our income.
Yes.
Because then my goal is that if we increase income, we can change how we produce.
Okay.
Not the other way around.
Right.
Because sometimes they're expecting that you should go organic right away and then try to find out who is going to buy your coffee.
Yeah.
That's different. So my approach is different.
Yeah. Well, and you have to be smart about business, right? You
exactly.
Can't I know. It's like, it always amazes me when I'll talk to people and like they'll set up a business and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to buy all this equipment. I'm like, what are you doing? You need to figure out your customer first and what your customer's willing to pay and what they want to buy. Like I just taught a chocolate course yesterday and to culinary students, and I said to them, what you think your customer wants and what you think you're going to make might not be the same thing.
Yeah.
So this would be nice with the coffee bar, because then you're really going to get firsthand feedback from people.
Totally. And it's actually, it gives us a lot of responsibility too as the producer.
Yes.
Because sometimes we're put also ourselves into this victim mentality position.
Yeah.
That we're the farmers, the poor farmers, that we can't set a price for our coffee. And yes, it's true. There's a lot of challenges there, but we need to start doing something. We can't just rely on whatever the consumer countries want or whatever. We need to sort of start doing something.
I read an article a while ago and it talked about that concept, the poor farmer. And it was like the poor cacao farmer, the poor coffee farmer. And to me, I was like, the people that are farming those commodity products have to have such an incredible amount of specialized knowledge. They have to be the person that is working the whole chain, because that's where you make the money.
Exactly.
If you work the whole chain, you make the money. But I was it annoyed me, because I'm like, these aren't poor farmers in the way that it makes it seem to people like uneducated. They don't know anything. It's like, these are incredibly smart people that know their farms.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, it's like, I want to take the person that's sitting in the office clackety clacking and be like, go outside and do something. And they'd be like, I can't. And so I like that it's, for you guys, it's going to be that introduction to more people to Costa Rican coffee and showing people here's where this is my family. This is my people.
Yeah, well, and it's also it's different, right? Because if I compare myself to my dad, for example, he can't speak English. Like I now, and we've seen this throughout the coffee industry. Like now, my generation is taking over the coffee plantations, right? So I'm really happy, because I'm starting to see a lot of coffee farmers, young coffee farmers, trying to put their own brand, roasting their own coffee, open their own coffee shop back home, right?
Yeah.
And trying to specialize into that, because now, this is I guess this is one of the advantages now that we have access to a lot of information. right? Like or internet in general. Vince, he just Googled coffee region and he show up there. And of course, without him, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right. So this connection and the fact that I speak English, sometimes I miss some words, but I'm getting there. Yeah. So it's different from the opportunities that my dad had when he was growing up. So yes, like times are changing.
Yeah.
Sometimes to the bad and sometimes to the good side. But
yeah.
But yeah, so it's pretty interesting. We'll see how it's gonna be in the
and
future.
So with seeing some more sort of younger generation farmers coming along, are they taking over like their family farms, or are they branching out and doing their own farms?
No, they're taking over. It's like inherit the land.
Okay.
So they're taking over to what they have already, right?
Yeah.
That comes from their parents in general. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna ask you, because I need to know, do you ever drink the fancy lattes? Or you just like I okay, so I didn't have my first coffee until I was 40 something maybe years old or older.
Okay.
I never drank coffee ever. I only drank chai or tea. That's all I drank. And then I had a coffee. I'm not going to tell you where. I had a coffee. No. But what for you, like,
I am George.
For you, like, is it just you like the black coffee, or do you ever?
I was before coming here, or in general, I was very like military. Like, no, I just drink black coffee and it has to be good. How are you dare to mix it with milk or sugar or whatever? No, and now I'm like, whatever. Like, it's also like, since it's something that you take every day, it depends on convenience, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be picky anymore. Like, if I'm traveling and there is a coffee shop and I just want coffee, and I like, sometimes I can sort of assume, right? Like, if I'm in this cheap coffee shop, I'm gonna ask for cream and sugar because probably it's a very dark roast coffee, not too much flavor, but I still want to enjoy a cup of coffee, so I will put all of it.
Yeah,
and it's still good.
Yeah,
like the milk and coffee, they mix lovely. It's a beautiful combination.
I know.
Yeah.
So my newest thing is I'm doing the MCT oil.
Oh my god,
it's delicious with cream, heavy cream, and then I blend it.
Exactly.
With cinnamon. I can't help myself. And then I started looking up because I'm researching and I'm getting ready. And then I was like, oh, what are like coffee mocktail drinks? And
there is tons. You can play around with
crazy.
Yeah, and that's the beauty also about coffee. Like, you can mix it with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think actually in Ethiopia, the tradition is to drink it. It's to have it with spices, like have it with cardamom.
Yeah.
With cinnamon, and they make this blend, and I'm looking forward to try that. I don't. Yeah. Like, yes, you want to try the natural flavors inside the coffee and all of that, but
yeah.
I mean, you can mix it with a lot of things.
Yeah. It's funny because we went to a coffee tasting event. I won't say with who. They had us drink 13 coffees. 13 coffees. I just want to tell you, don't ever do that. Jason and I.
Yeah, you'll probably get tired.
Well, 7 o'clock at night. And so we were literally, I know. And we were sick for 3 days afterwards because it was like, so by the time we got to like the fourth one, I was kind of like, I stick my tongue in. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't drink anymore. And it's so, like you just said, your palate gets tired, but then you can't discern or enjoy any of it, right? No. And so for me, it's
did you spit it out?
Oh yeah, I took and spit them out. I was 13 coffees. I've been like this for days, and at that point, I think I only drink coffee like maybe once every couple of weeks. So I do not need coffee to wake up in the morning. Other people are like, don't talk to me. Just leave me alone.
They're fueled on coffee.
Yeah, I actually have a shirt that says fueled by chocolate, not by coffee.
There you go.
Yeah, but I love that, same with like coffee and chocolate, they're flavor notes that you taste in them, and it's delightful, like to discover these different coffees. And that's why I really liked when I tried both of your coffees. I was like, oh, I could drink this straight. Yeah, and they are very different. And I find sometimes with those dark roasts, so for light, medium, and dark roast, like what's the difference between roasting time? Like, is it 25 minutes, 30 minutes,
no,
an hour?
it's seconds.
Seriously?
Yeah, it depends on the machine too. Like if it's a bigger machine, it will take longer. If it's a sample machine, it's usually seconds, minutes.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, see, look at all the stuff we're learning today.
Yeah.
Now, last couple things here. So where to get your coffee? Best way to buy your coffee.
Yeah, so as right now we're gonna open our small coffee bar at Culina. We hope to have that ready by summer, hopefully.
Okay.
But still you can get our beans at Culina. You can go to our website, dotacoffeecompany.com.
Okay.
You can purchase online. We're on Amazon too, because we're trying to do the e-commerce thing.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah, that's basically...
So like Amazon merch?
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So in the show notes, I will put all of your links as well. And then is there anything else that we need to know about Dota Coffee?
Just enjoy coffee, you know? Yeah, it's amazing. Try to go and try to buy good coffee. That would be something.
Yes.
Because there is a difference. There's a difference between supermarket coffee and it's not that I'm saying that you have to go and buy mine. Obviously.
But
you should. But go to a local coffee roaster. Ask for different origins. Try different coffee from Africa, coffee from America, from Colombia, from Central America. They're all different, and it's unbelievable. It's amazing to experience that variety. Yeah. So expand.
And we're so lucky in Edmonton because we have so many coffee roasters.
Access to a lot of different kinds of coffee. So enjoy it and enjoy like taking time to just brew some coffee and sit down and chat with someone that you loved, I don't know.
Yes.
And spend time having a conversation, drinking coffee. That's what I would say, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on today. And for everybody out there, if you have questions, you can reach out to myself. You can reach out to Celeste, Dota Coffee. And wherever you are in the world, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thanks, Food Explorers. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.